When you registered, you picked up a registration briefcase that was full of information. Oops. Would you take out this binder, please? I'm hoping you'll follow along with me. I refer to this binder of information as a Bible. It's got the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's the direction from chiefs. So when you find that big binder, I want you to find the document that is entitled Consensus Paper, British Columbia First Nations Perspective on a New Health Governance Arrangement, 2011. It looks like this. The reason I'm starting there is in May 2011, we approved this document by resolution. Chiefs voted on it. And it has a lot of information and a lot of direction. It sets out what you as chiefs and leaders expected the First Nations Health Council to do, and the kinds of direction that you expected the First Nations Health Authority to incorporate in its work of delivering services, in its work to redesign programs and services. I'd like you to skip how we got here and turn your attention to Chapter 2, Directives. Directive, there's 7 of them. Now, in my travels, and I go everywhere, I go to community meetings, I go to meetings of health directors, I go to meetings of chiefs, every region, every sub-caucus, when I'm invited, I go. And what I've discovered is that a lot of us never get past directive number 1. Community-driven and nation-based. Unlike any other organization, our direction comes from the ground up, not the top down. The way we get those directives or advice or plans is from the sub-caucus and the regions. And you meet regularly in the North, Interior, Fraser Salish, Vancouver Coastal, and Vancouver Island. You meet regularly to do the work. Directive number 2 is increase First Nations decision-making. The way we have accomplished this particular directive is through partnership. We have set tables with Health Canada in Ottawa to make sure that Ottawa does not make decisions about us without us. We have set tables with the BC Ministry of Health Services so that Joe Gallagher and his senior executive team have the opportunity to sit at the table with the deputy minister and all of the assistant deputy ministers to take decisions together. In this way, the BC government cannot take decisions about us and our health care without us. Each of our 3 members that lead a region, so the northern representatives, the interior representatives, the Fraser Salish, Vancouver Coastal, Vancouver Island, we have negotiated regional partnership accords with the regional health authorities. Some of you know I'm full of hot air. I was drying myself out. Each of our regional caucuses has a partnership accord with their regional health authority. When I first met with Dr. Nigel Murray, the then CEO for the Fraser Health Authority, we started talking about some of the issues and the problems. And he put his head down. He was troubled. And he told me that he supports what we're doing and the direction that we're going. But he's one of 25,000 employees. I almost fell out of my chair when I learned that the Fraser Health Authority employs 25,000 employees. So even though the CEO says we're going to improve services to First Nations and Aboriginal people living in our service area, doesn't make it happen. He asked us for our help. So our partnership is all about working together. And every region has the same kind of partnership. It's about working together to make decisions together. Wasn't that long ago that the Fraser Health Authority made all the decisions about us, without us. Not anymore. We take those decisions together. So for what purpose? Well, move down to directive. Directive number 3. It's about improving services. How do we improve services when we only have a small portion of the responsibility for service delivery? The provincial health system is responsible for the lion's share of healthcare and healthcare services. So we need those partnerships. We need tables to share decision making where we can identify problems, issues, set priorities, set plans, set budgets together. And that's what we're doing. We're in the very early stages of those partnerships. Have we taken them as far as we want to? Not yet. But we're relentless. You know what Gwen's like in the interior? Eh? You know what Cookby Christian is like in the interior? You'll get to know Alan. He's like them too. He's relentless. And the same with the rest of us. We advocate for you. That's our job. What you heard this morning from Mary Ellen, what you heard this morning from Charlene and Irene, and you heard it from our dear elder, Titayan, was a call to action. Protect children. Make sure they're safe. Look after their mothers. Make sure our women are well cared for. That's not work we can do alone. We need the help of others. We need to work together with teachers, schools, daycare, Aboriginal Head Start programs. We need to work with children and family agencies. We need to work with nonprofit organizations. You heard this morning that Mary Ellen is going to work with us. We need her help. Mark Sieben, would you please stand? Mark Sieben is the Deputy Minister. He's prepared to work with us. John Dybel and other BC Deputy Ministers responsible for education, human resources, housing, they're prepared to work with us. It gets really complicated when you have multiple players. It gets really complicated when a room gets this big full of this many people and everybody has an idea. Everyone has the answer. So we need to work with one another. Oh, I took my paddles off. Paddle together in the same canoe, in the same direction, And make sure we don't spill. That water's still cold. Collaboration. My teachers taught me. I've been doing this kind of work since I was 20. If I make it to my birthday next month, I'll be 55. I've been doing this kind of work for almost 35 years. The first thing I learned from my chiefs is that any service, any program, any activity that others do for us, whether it's the federal government, whether it's a provincial government, whether it's others, it doesn't matter. We can do better ourselves. What does that mean? That means we've got to develop our capacity. That's our job. We have to train those children once we keep them safe, to give them every opportunity to pursue their gifts, whatever that gift may be. I am so proud of my daughters. Every one of them is smarter than their dad. They went to university. They graduated. I started and didn't finish. I started making babies. That was more fun. And once I made them, Mom said, okay, now that you're a dad, you got to raise them. You got to look after them. You got to support them. And your job's simple, but it's hard. You have to give your children a better start in life than my mom was able to give me. That's what she told me. So when my babies began to make babies, I told them the same thing. But I told them that I would walk with them. And as a grandfather, my job is to work with you to create a better world for my grandchildren, to give those grandchildren a better start than I had. Give those grandchildren a better start than I was able to give my own children. That's our job. That's breaking the cycle that Mary Ellen referred to this morning. We're not about rights, not about jurisdiction. That belongs to the chiefs in whatever way, form, fashion they choose to advocate for recognition of their Aboriginal title and their Aboriginal rights. That's not our job. In fact, chiefs have made it clear, stay the heck out of that, Kelly. Don't go there. I'm a simple guy. It's better when I listen. The times I manage to get myself into trouble is when I'm not listening. We have said that we want to work smarter, not harder. So we want to get the most with whatever resource that we have available to us. And Irene's words that sometimes our work doesn't require funding, it doesn't require money. It requires us to help one another in ceremony. It requires us to carry on with those things that the Creator left with us. A rich ceremonial life. It's a medicine. It's a way to heal our spirit. It's a way of reconnecting our spirit with our body, our heart, our mind. So those 7 directives, when you read that, does it say health anywhere on it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So remember that. Remember that. So let's move along. There's more detail on what those 7 directives mean. I'll let you read the Bible at your leisure. But I'd like you to turn to page 18. On page 18, talks about the mandate of the First Nations Health Council. The mandate is dedicated political leadership. Leadership. Talks about supporting First Nations to achieve their health priorities and objectives. It talks about health advocacy and relationships. So when people ask me, what is your job, Kelly? What are you doing? What does being chair of the First Nations Health Council mean? What does the First Nations Health Council do for us? I say 2 words: leadership, advocacy. I can't make it any simpler than that. Leadership, advocacy. The reason I'm reviewing this is because this is 4 years old. How many newly elected leaders here since 2011? Don't be shy, be proud. So, they weren't there when we did this work. How many brand new members to the Health Council? Hands up that weren't there when we approved this document. Come on, I know some of you were. There we go. So some of our Health Council needs to be brought up to speed on this work. And so when you look at the bottom bullet under health advocacy and relationships, it says develop relationships and alliances with other First Nations organizations, government ministries and departments, and others to achieve progress in the social determinants of health. When our council began to talk about this particular mandate statement, we had a heck of a time. We could not define it in a way where we understood it in the same way. That's a complex concept. And I don't know, there's probably what, 400, 500 people in here? I bet if you were each asked to write a definition of what it meant, we'd probably have 400 or 500 different replies, different perspectives. But chiefs said, this consensus paper reflects the direction that they have provided through regional engagements. And they approved that statement as part of our mandate. It's in our terms of reference. Our council has an obligation to carry out this direction because it was given to us in May 2011. Now you might be saying, hey, it took you 4 years to get started. What the heck's wrong with you? Well, we were kind of busy negotiating agreements, kind of busy building the First Nations Health Authority, kind of busy with overseeing Joe take an organization from a handful of people to several hundred. We got caught up with some busy work. But we're here now. And in the same way, in 2008, 2009, and 2010, we talked about the opportunity to transfer the Pacific region to us, for us to create a First Nations Health Authority. It took years of dialogue. It took us a while to air out our fears, our doubts, our questions. I have fun teasing folks in the BC Ministry of Health Services. I have fun teasing folks in Health Canada and the Government of Canada. I have fun teasing some of our own. But when we started this work, Health Canada said, those damn Indians can't agree on anything. It won't get approved. A lot of fuss over nothing. I heard the same thing from folks in the BC Ministry of Health Services. I heard the same message from some of the folks in regional health authorities. We sure showed them, didn't we? When it's important to us, we can come together. When it's important to us, we can set aside differences. We can achieve a powerful consensus that gives us hope for the future. And that's what we're doing with this work. A leader's job is to create hope. Why? Because those children, those parents that are suffering on that pathway to self-destruction, whether that self-destruction is down on the downtown east side of Vancouver or in our backyards, those children and parents and families that suffer will go a long way if they have hope. They need to believe that tomorrow is going to be a better day. That's what we did in May 2011 when we approved and gave ourselves permission to take control of health. We believed in ourselves and that we can do a better job than others had been doing for us. So, after our council struggled with what the heck does social determinants of health mean, we decided to pursue the development of a wellness strategy, a 10-year wellness strategy. Wellness, most of us get. We know when somebody's well and we kind of know when they're not. Even if we don't know it here, we know it here. We recognize pain. We recognize anger. We recognize hurt. So, the Health Council looked at its working group structure and we said, what got us here isn't going to help us do the work that we need to do in coming years. So we disbanded our previous working groups, except for one. The policy working group survived the restructuring. The policy working group has a job to make sure that we uphold our governance standards. The 7 directives, the concepts of reciprocal accountability, the understanding that community money is community money, and probably most importantly, the separation of politics from business. That we always make sure that we exercise that self-discipline to keep our health authority strong and free from political interference. And so our policy working group has taken on that challenge. Transformation. Some of us aren't happy with the way Health Canada, Treasury Board, Finance, and other central agencies design programs. We don't understand how they came up with the ideas that they came up with. And many of you find that they don't work in our communities. Now that it's in our control, we have the opportunity to transform those programs, to make them work better, to get the outcomes that you want for your citizens. That means we have to work together on changing those programs. And so we've created a transition and a transformation working group. Each region sends a member of the First Nations Health Council and a member of the First Nations Health Directors Association board. 10. A working group of 10 that support Joe Gallagher, John Ma, Richard Jock, our senior leadership team, as they look at program transformation, as they think about the opportunities, as they begin to look at how we can transform those programs. In our agreement, it says that the Health Council may provide advice to the First Nations Health Authority, but we can't give it orders, directions, that kind of thing. It also says the same for First Nations Health Directors Association, that it can give advice, but it can't give orders. So rather than have chiefs and leaders give one set of directions and health directors give another set of directions, we've created a process that brings both together so that they can kick ideas around and they can determine together what the best approach to transforming programs and services. Incredible opportunity and lots of work. So this morning I mentioned that we have a workshop for all of you that have questions or advice or suggestions around transformation. Our transformation working group will be there to hear you, to listen to your ideas, to ask questions, to engage in that dialogue. It's the beginning of the dialogue, not the end. We also have a collaboration and partnership working group. It's heavy work, changing the world in which we live. All of us want to achieve our vision statement. Our vision statement that is shared by the First Nations Health Authority, First Nations Health Directors Association, and the First Nations Health Council is healthy, self-determining, vibrant BC First Nations children, families, and communities. That means we have a lot of work to do, and we cannot do this work alone. We need the help of others. And so the chiefs knew that. That's why they said in this document that the mandate of the First Nations Health Council is to develop relationships and alliance with other First Nations organizations, government ministries and departments, and others to achieve progress in the social determinants of health. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to take 18 to 24 months to engage, to develop that 10-year wellness strategy together. That we will do that. It's a blank page, it's a concept. It's a blank page. We need your help. Putting our best minds together, paddling together in the same direction in time so we don't spill. Although I don't mind cold water. I'm built like a bear, I sound like a bear, I act like a bear sometimes, and cold yeah, it's good for me. So, we're launching that dialogue today. It's going to be interesting times in the next 18 to 24 months as we gather and we begin to talk about the work. Some of you will be concerned about energy projects. I'm not going to mention any names like Liz Logan. Oh, there you are. Hi, Liz. Very concerned about emissions from LNG plants. Very concerned about air quality and the damage to the environment that her people live in. Others, won't mention any names, Anne Louis, are concerned about mines and tailing ponds full of poison that threaten our lakes, our creeks, our waters, and our rivers, threaten our aquifers. Some of you want action to protect your traditional foods so that when you eat deer meat, elk, moose, that you know it's safe for you, that you're not going to get sick from eating that food because that animal's sick. Some of you want to know that your fish is safe to eat I'd love to see that CEO from that mining company drink that water. How many of you'd like to see that? I thought everybody put their hands up. What are you, falling asleep? How many of you would like to see the CEO of Imperial Mines drink that dirty water that he said was safe to drink? We heard from our dear elder, Titean, that a leader's job, his first job, is to keep children safe and to protect their mothers. I know that's going to make it to the agenda. Big issues, but big opportunities. In this agreement, and I'm really grateful that Grand Chief Edward John is the kind of leader that he is. Years ago, and Joe Gallagher and I were trying to remember when, but it was several years ago, long before we got started where we are now. Ed John was successful in getting Joe and myself with Ed invited to meet with a table of federal deputy ministers. I never saw so many suits in a room. It was a long, big boardroom table. And they were talking about us. And you know what? Not one of them knew anything about us. And that's the group that makes decisions about us. So, what we decided to do was pursue in our agreement a commitment for the federal government to meet with the First Nations Health Council and the First Nations Health Authority once a year, so that we could advocate on the broader social determinants of health. So we could confront the Department of Environment, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, the Department of Natural Resources, and see her. I shouldn't have said that last one. Makes me angry. How many of you are addicted to Indian agent abuse? Come on. I cannot be the only one. If you've been a chief for 5 minutes, you love beating up on Indian agents. Almost as much as a Stalo loved beating up on fishery officers. Hey, now I know where Dave got his black eye. He went fishing. We have an opportunity for quarterly meetings with the BC deputy ministers. Wow, was I excited to get that on February 6th. Because you know an annual meeting is, a lot of times it's just a photo op. Right? Somebody gets their photo taken and it doesn't necessarily produce change. But John Dybel, the deputy minister to the premier, committed to us a quarterly meeting so that we could raise issues, we could raise opportunities, and we could measure progress. We have an opportunity with developing a wellness strategy to inform the BC government about the kinds of policies they need to amend, the legislation they need to amend. The way that they serve our people needs to change. It won't change on its own. We have to do that work. We have to come to a consensus. It takes years to come to a consensus with you guys. I love you dearly, but holy, you're tough on us and yourselves. And that's okay. That's part of the process. I never fear conflict, because you have an opportunity to resolve differences when you have conflict. You have an opportunity to exchange ideas, engage in a debate, to find a good way, to find the middle ground, a good solid ground for both of you to stand on. And that's the opportunity we have. If we do the work to develop a wellness strategy where you tell us what your priorities are, every region will be different. You'll have some common themes of work, but every one will be different. When we first met, how long ago was that, Nick? Over a year ago, we met with Colleen Swords, the Deputy Minister for ANC. Oh, that was a hard meeting. I was glad it was by video conference. I was worried that our friend Wayne Christian would exercise his Shuswap power and reach through the telephone lines or the internet lines and throttle her by the neck. She was so dismissive, so disrespectful. How do you work with someone that won't even look at you and listen to you, to learn about what you're saying? That's that institution. It has a dark history. So our council has a challenge. We've got to figure out how to do some attitude adjustment. I'm not allowed to do the way I used to do it. That was more fun, though. So we have a willing partner. Yesterday we met with the Honorable Ron Ambrose, and you heard her talk about our work. And you heard her commit to our work. She loves the concept of, she told me she's a policy wonk. That's the first time I've ever heard a minister say that. I'm a policy wonk. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I like it. I love it that she wants to work with us. And you know who one of her best friends is? She calls him Bernie, the Minister of ANC. And I'm convinced, I've met with the Minister of ANC several times, that he wants change. I'm convinced that he wants to make a difference. But he can't do it alone. He needs our help. So, we've got lots of work to do. We have so many issues, so many challenges. You heard about some of them this morning. Those are only some of them. We have other issues that we need to confront. So, our collaboration partnership working group is tasked with developing that wellness strategy. But we need each of you to work in your sub-caucus and your regional caucus to work with us to create that wellness approach. We need that direction from you. We need you to set the priorities. We need you to identify the needs and to give us clear direction so that we can make the most of our opportunities with the federal Deputy Minister's table and the BC Deputy Minister's table. We have an opportunity to change the way that government works with us. When we met on February 6th, can I take a drink of water? I'm going to. Don't give me permission. I'm just going to anyway. On February 6th, when we met with the deputies, there was real excitement. And so I was so excited when I heard Mary Ellen this morning talk about the need to look at the whole child. What's the experience of that child before it's born? Do we have good prenatal care? If not, why not? What advocacy work do we need to do to make sure those children, whether they're born into our communities at home or whether they're born away from home, are they properly cared for? when they begin to enter preschool, when they begin to enter Head Start, when they begin to enter kindergarten, when they enter the school system? Are we supporting them? Are we doing everything that we can when they know some of them have special needs? Are we, in a timely way, doing those assessments, those learning assessments, so that we can make sure that they get the support they need to successfully complete school? Because Mary Ellen has told us in her reports, a child that completes high school is going to do a whole lot better than one that does not. A young person that completes university is going to do a whole lot better than one that does not. So we need to work with the whole child. We need to make sure that we find a way of bringing teachers, whether it's preschool, Head Start, kindergarten, elementary, secondary, university. We need to work with them. We need to work with all of our communities and organizations that provide services for our children to keep them safe. And there's incredible diversity. I'm learning that more and more, with incredible capacity challenges. When I met with Bernard Valcourt, he told me that Children and Family Service gets more than enough money. I looked at him, bit my tongue, and then I did it anyway. Do I believe Bernie or do I believe Cindy? I believe Cindy Blackstock when she says we are grossly underfunded and that it's racist. That's why I call Bernie a deadbeat dad, and I'll continue until he coughs up. Is it any surprise that we have more children in the care of government than at the height of the residential school? When Directive 20-1 says we'll only fund you if you apprehend children, there's something wrong with that policy. The policy should say we're going to keep children safe and keep the families together. How complicated is that? So we have some work to do. We have people that make policies about us that know absolutely nothing about us. One of the reasons I'm relying on Mary Ellen is because she has ready access to the minister. I think he's afraid of her. I like that. I'd much rather have someone's respect, but if they don't respect me, fear will do in the meantime. That's why I get along with Mary Ellen so well. Oh, we have great debates. Very little we agree on except that we need one another. But we always do it respectfully. That's what I'm hoping we'll get Canada to, by regular engagement that will educate them, will open their eyes, will open their hearts, will open their minds, that they'll reconnect with their spirits and they'll begin to work with us. Heavy lifting. Heavy lifting. But they're afraid. They're afraid. They don't know what to do about us and our issues and our problems. They have no ideas. They have no clue about what will work and what won't work. But I know you do. No one knows your communities, your people, your families, your issues better than any of you. No one. You are the experts. That's why Directive 1 is Directive 1. right? Nation-based, community-driven. That's why. You know what the issues are, but you also know what the resolutions are. You know what the proposals for policies that will work. So I am really excited about the opportunity that we have. There's a lot of concern about a proposal we haven't finished yet. People want to see a copy. Well, it's not done yet. I met with Mary Ellen, and she had some good news for me this morning. I have some questions that I think she has the answers for. And she's sharing those ideas with my team to help make that proposal a solid proposal. And that's what we're doing. We're reaching out to others that have some ideas, that have some advice, so that we can create a business case that makes great sense, that even Inuit agents will have to say yes and find the resources. Now, I'm told by senior federal officials that the federal government doesn't have much money. To which I always say the same thing. They can always find money for the things that they want to find money for. They ever find money for you? Not unless you make them. You got to make them. You got to make them. When Health Canada gave us the original offer in 2007, Wayne Christian went, "This will never work." Eddie John says, "This will never work." I'm a little bit younger. I got more to learn. All I did was ask him questions. And at the end of that dialogue, it took several months, the federal representative realized his mandate was inadequate, and that you, leaders, if asked the question, do we support this concept of a First Nations Health Authority with the current offer, he concluded on his own that you would say no. So he went back. He got more money. He went back. He liberated our policy. That's why we can transform health programs, because we negotiated that in our agreement. When I talk to Indian agents today, they want to leave Directive 21 the way it is. What the minister said to us is, not only do we have enough funding as it is, there's simply too many agencies. That's what he told me. He also said that in other regions, they have funded enhanced prevention funding, but they're not getting results. And so he would have a difficult time getting central agencies to approve money under that policy unless they address governance, unless that proposal addressed outcomes, unless that proposal addressed accountability. So as we begin to paddle in that canoe, we're going to have to ask ourselves some pretty tough questions. When we created the First Nations Health Authority, we had more than enough lawyers looking at the bylaws for our First Nations Health Authority. Canada wanted to make sure our governance standards were up to the job. BC wanted to make sure that our governance standards were up to the job. And so did you. You gave us clear direction on the governance standards. So 3 sets of lawyers signed off on our bylaws to say that our governance standards were going to meet the challenges associated with delivering health services. We're going to have to start thinking about, are our agencies doing, can they meet that standard? Not for me to answer, that's for you to answer. If you have a delegated agency, that's a question you have to confront. And if it's not, how do we fix it? We can fix anything. We can. Outcomes. Mary Ellen's got lots of advice about outcomes. Gwen Phillips has lots of advice about outcomes. Don't get her started. Are you still here, Gwen? Maybe I got away with it when she's been howling every time I say something she likes. So, that work is on us. I think the principles, the guiding standards, the governance standards, the accountability standards, the outcomes that we've set for ourselves in health can be replicated in any program, in any service. So, turn back to that page that has the 7 directives that does not say only in health. We can make certain that all of our programs are community-driven and nation-based. All of them. They're not now. Most of them are driven from Ottawa or they're driven from Victoria, or both. We can make sure that we take the decisions about policies, programs, and services. Right now, they're made in Ottawa or they're made in Victoria. But we have a chance to change that. It's on us. We can improve services. But we have to have your direction so that we can tell those deputy ministers how to improve the services, because they don't know. We need their help. They're the decision makers. They have the resources. We don't. So we have to do some attitude adjustments, be persuasive, be diplomatic. That's not my job, by the way. We have others on the council that have a gift of diplomacy. That's not my gift. So we'll work together. Some of us are straight talking, blunt, hard, tough to get along with. And that's only me. I'm not referring to any of the other on my council. They're all pretty kind and gentle. And I can be, but don't let work it out. I don't want any agents thinking I'm changed, that I have a soft and gentle side. Develop our own capacity so that we can take care of these things ourselves, because our elders have told us anything that others do for you, you can do better. So our challenge is this. We have to come together, work together for 18 to 24 months. And we have to set priorities. A list of 100 things is not a list of priorities. We need 3, 4 priorities per region. And our working group will tackle that work. Now, some have said you should only involve yourself with health. Well, what is the definition of health? We heard a definition this morning from Titayan. It's much more than the sickness system, as I always call it. It's much more than that. It means that we have to develop a wellness strategy that takes those things into account. We're going to have to do some hard advocacy. Government doesn't change its mind willingly. We have to make a business case. We have to be smart. We have to show them the benefits that our approach will work. And we have success here. The minister brags about us. The Honorable Rona Ambrose brags about us. She's telling the other chiefs in Alberta that Health Canada would love to do the same deal that they've done with us with Alberta chiefs. She's telling the chiefs in Saskatchewan that she would love to work with them to create their own authority to do the kinds of work we're doing now. And there's interest. What we've done once, we can do twice. What we've done twice, we can do 3 times. We've done it once. And so we'll build on our success. And we will work, Mary Ellen, on the whole child. We will make sure that we bring all of those people that are making decisions about us without us, that we create a shared decision-making table. that won't happen anymore. We'll advocate for policy liberation, as my dear sister Gwen calls it. So those dumb rules that prevent us from achieving outcomes, we can eliminate the dumb rules in favor of those things that work for us. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Change. It's tough. It's hard work. But we can do it. We've done it. I've done it. You guys saw me. That wasn't long ago. Your health leader weighed 335 pounds. I failed my physicals 2 years in a row. I made the mistake of going to the health assessment that was offered 3 Gathering Wisdoms ago and got told to go to a doctor. So if I can change, you should be able to do it pretty easily. Right? Yeah, agree with me. I'm right. I'm not right often, but I know you can do it. I know you can engage in your own healing. And I know that you can create a healthier family. And I know that our healthy families will create healthy communities. But they need our help. I'll close with this. The absolute worst thing we can do to one another is to tell government we don't support the work. To tell government that you don't agree with it. Because that simply gives Indian agents an excuse for the status quo. So at the end of this journey, 18 months from now, 24 months from now, we need the same kind of consensus that we achieved when we approved our health work at Gathering Wisdom 4 and Gathering Wisdom 5. Because Canada didn't say no when we had the power of chiefs unifying and coming together and saying, yes, we're going to do this work. Yes, we'll find the extra money. Yes, we'll overcome the challenges of policy liberation. Yes, we'll work together. And that's what you heard from the minister. She's proud of what you've been able to accomplish. She's proud of what the First Nations Health Authority has been able to accomplish, the First Nations Health Directors, and the First Nations Health Council. We're in a good place. We have created hope. We have created the opportunity to create a better world for our children, to give them a better start than our parents were able to give us. So I'm very excited. I'd like to invite Wickaninish, our dear eldest brother, forward to share his reflections on what he heard this morning from Titayan, his Nchalnath relative, from the panel, Mary Ellen, Charlene, Irene, and to bless the table when he's finished sharing his words so that we don't get an upset stomach when we eat our lunch. Thank you very much for the opportunity to invite you to engage in a dialogue, to begin this 18-month journey together, this 24-month journey together, for us to work together to develop a 10-year wellness strategy. Thank you.